First off, I am 35 years old, I am divorced, and I live in a van down by the river.
What's going on, everybody? Welcome to Chicago, Illinois. We are right downtown now. This is the Magnificent Mile over here. And if you see behind me, this giant building just above my head, that is the John Hancock Tower. And that was the location where Chris Farley was found on December 18th, 1997. He had a 60th floor apartment in the John Hancock Tower. Now I'm going to take you on a quick walk around the John Hancock Tower, show you where he would have went in, where they would have brought him out, and kind of show you a little bit about what his life would have been like here, and I'm going to tell you about his final days. So let's go take a look. For just a little bit of background on Chris Farley, he was born in Madison, Wisconsin. He was a Midwestern guy. He was raised in a pretty large family. He had a religious upbringing, a very good family life. His dad owned a pretty big company in Madison, Wisconsin. So he was brought up in an upscale neighborhood, but he lived a very interesting life. Now, when he was in high school, kids tended to pick on him for his weight. He was an overweight kid, and they gave him a hard time, and he learned how to make people laugh before they could basically call him the fat kid. So he learned this ability that he had to make people laugh early on. He decided to try his hand at improv comedy. He started attending a place called the Arc Theater in Madison, Wisconsin, which is now a laundromat. One of the previous videos that I did showed some of the Chris Farley locations in Madison. We visited there and went by the home that he grew up in. So I'll link some of those in the description as well. Everywhere that Chris Farley performed, he was the absolute star. He stole the show. Everybody came to see Chris Farley. And he ended up going to Saturday Night Live. He became one of the biggest names on Saturday Night Live. Now, he idolized John Belushi, and coincidentally, they both passed away at the age of 33 from pretty much the exact same thing. Chris Farley was in a class on SNL with Adam Sandler, Rob Schneider, David Spade, Chris Rock, and they all agreed that Chris Farley was the funniest. Everyone tried to write skits, and they all wanted to include Chris because they knew that he would kill it. After Saturday Night Live, he got himself into a couple of films. Probably the best was Tommy Boy. That was the one that most people have seen the most. He was in Black Sheep, Beverly Hills Ninja, but he was still very young in his movie career, and who knows how much more he would have done in time had he lived. Now, this building here in front of me, this is the John Hancock building, and this was the location where Chris Farley was living at the time of his death, and it was in his 60th floor apartment that he was found dead. Now, I'm going to tell you just a little bit more about his final days, and I'm going to show you some of the pictures from inside the apartment, because when he passed away, this apartment did go up for sale just a couple of years ago, and up until then, nobody had ever seen the inside of his apartment. So I'll insert those pictures when we get to that part of the story. But just down here is the Cheesecake Factory, and this was one of Chris Farley's favorite restaurants. He spent a lot of time down here, and in the days before his passing, he was seen in the Cheesecake Factory eating. So right over here, it's at the bottom level of the John Hancock building, but this was the Cheesecake Factory that Chris Farley was always eating in. Now let's fast forward to December of 1997. I'm going to tell you a little bit about what happened in Chris Farley's final week. Now, he was seen drinking at a place called The Lodge on Rush Street. He frequented a lot of places, a lot of bars and nightclubs on Rush Street, which is kind of the party district of Chicago. Now, on Sunday, December 14th, Chris Farley was seen here at the Cheesecake Factory with friends. That's where he started his day. And then he went to a place called Heaven on 7 and Crowbar, which were two of the bars on Rush Street. Now, Monday, December 15th, it said that Chris Farley came back to his condo here. And, I'm not sure if it was a condo or an apartment, but it was a unit. But Chris Farley came back and he slept pretty much the entire day away on Monday, December 15th. Now, on Tuesday, December 16th, he was seen at the Hunt Club on Rush Street, And bartenders knew that he was not doing very well. They thought he had way too much to drink. He was in really bad shape, but they refused to cut him off because he was Chris Farley. A lot of people came there because they knew that he would be there, and he was almost kind of a tourist attraction there in a way. So they refused to cut him off, which was kind of doing him a huge disservice. So he was in really horrible shape on that Tuesday, and it was on Thursday, December 18th that he was found dead. Now on Wednesday, December 17th, Chris was at a house party in Lincoln Park, not too far out of the city, and it said that he was doing cocaine, he was doing heroin, and he was introduced to a escort call girl named Heidi Hauser. And this will play in just a second. But this door right here, this is the resident entrance. So this is where Chris Farley would have came and went when he would have wanted to leave or go out for dinner, lunch, catch a cab, whatever else. But I'll show you a couple other things when we get over here. But Heidi Hauser. Now Chris Farley ended up spending the rest of the night with Heidi. Now there's a lot of debate as to whether or not Heidi Hauser contributed to the death of Chris Farley. Obviously she had a chance to save him and didn't really do anything about it. But just over here, I'll show you where they would have brought his body out. And there are a couple of photos of that morning. Now, when Chris came back to Heidi's apartment, they were doing drugs, and they called for a drug dealer to come and bring them a shipment of drugs that they would eventually bring back here. Now, when he was found the next day, this is where they actually brought the body out. There are a couple of photos which I'll attach in this video so you can see. Now I was told they actually brought him down through a service elevator just to the left down that ramp. But, a really, really sad day for all of us, for Chris Farley fans. That was one of the most shocking deaths of my lifetime. Now going back to the Heidi Hauser thing, she was not a great influence on Chris that night. Obviously, she was a call girl, escort, whatever you want to call her. And they did drugs together, and Chris ended up bringing her back to his apartment here, and they did more drugs together, and Chris passed out on the floor. But before he passed out, he said his last words ended up being, "Please don't leave me, please don't leave me." And Heidi turned around, took a photo of Chris passed out on the floor, thinking it would be funny to show him later, and she never got that chance because he was found dead in that same position the next morning, or the next afternoon, by his brother. Now, if she had called 911, maybe they would have been able to revive him, but he was an addict, unfortunately, and who knows what would have ended up happening. But it is very possible that a call to 911 could have saved Chris's life, at least at the moment. But, just a really sad, tragic story. Chris Farley was one of my absolute favorites. I've done numerous videos on him. We've done his grave in Madison. We've done pretty much an entire Madison tour showing his high school and the Arc Theater and some of the places that he frequented a lot. Now, as I mentioned at the beginning of the video, his unit did go up for sale a couple of years ago, so here's a couple of the pictures from inside his apartment. Now, as you can see, he had a really good view of Lake Michigan and the city skyline, and this is the main entryway, and this is where his body was actually found, right in the middle of this photo. And I'm not sure if this would have been the living room or a bedroom, and here would have been Chris's bathroom. It was a one-bathroom unit. And the last sale of that unit went for $493,000, 2-bedroom, 2-bath. But that's all I have for today, so thanks for watching, and I hope you learned a little something, and rest in peace to Chris Farley.